Well, hello and welcome again to Pod Sothoth, a Lovecraft book club. I'm your host, Todd Beardsley, and I'm joined today with our usual guest, actually. It's the same guest that's been the last 25 episodes. It's Claire. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Todd.
We have so many things to talk about, and primary among them is, of course, this episode's story, which is The Curse of Yig, which was first published in the November 1929 issue of Weird Tales. But this was written with a friend. I don't know how to pronounce her first name. I think the usual pronunciation is Zealia, but it might be Zealia because there's an extra A in there. But Zealia Bishop. Everyone else I've heard say this person's name says Zealia Bishop. So I think we're just go with that, unless you have a preference.
They just say without the A at the beginning, is what you're saying.
It's either Zealia Bishop or Zealia Bishop. She has the extra A, and the usual spelling doesn't have the extra A at the beginning. So I'm not super sure how to pronounce it.
Okay, if you're talking about someone who has a zeal for life, you don't say a zeal for life.
You don't. However, if someone is like a cultist, which often happens in Lovecraft stories, they're a zealot, and therefore it might be Zealia Bishop.
That's true.
So maybe we should just go with that. We should go with Zealia Bishop, like a zealot.
I would say Zealia.
Okay.
How about somewhere in between?
Tomato, tomato.
Potato, potato, tomato, tomato.
Yeah. Agree to disagree.
But anyway, this story is... We're recording outside and there's like a giant mosquito problem.
Yeah, so if you hear a sound, it's me just spraying myself
That's right.
with mosquito repellent.
So we're going to talk about Curse of Yig. We should talk about that.
Okay.
Let's talk about that.
You don't want to talk about the thing we did, the thing we went to first?
It depends. Like, we can talk about that. We can talk
You're
about...
in charge here.
We don't have to be secretive about it. We went to Necronomicon.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was.
We could talk about Necronomicon. We could go to the story. We could do Necronomicon later. Whatever you want to do.
I feel like you talk about that kind of thing first. I feel like in most podcasts, they talk about current events and what they're up to first.
And then the thing they're covering?
Yeah.
Well, then, fuck it. Let's do it.
All right.
All right. So we went to Necronomicon 2022, Providence, Rhode Island. It was super fun.
It was super fun.
What do you have to say about it, Claire?
Well, I learned that when you're going to the ball, you cannot be too overdressed.
Correct.
You can be underdressed, which we were.
Definitely. Well, there were three of us in our party.
There were.
And
one was not overdressed.
one was just
not underdressed.
right on the nose.
Perfect. Yes.
So there was some coverage actually in the New York Times. There was an article by Elizabeth Vincentelli in the August 28th, 2022 edition of the New York Times. And there is a line there at the end that is, and I am quoting now, and a tuxedoed man in what looked like a green crochet Cthulhu mask.
It was.
That was our pal Harley.
Yes.
And so we brought him. I get credit for this. I think we all, it was because of this podcast that New York Times author got to write that line.
Yeah.
He was great. He looked like he was running for president and also
Business Cthulhu.
It was super fun. That was probably the most fun time of the evening of the conference.
He was so committed. He was sweating balls under this crocheted mask on a dance floor, but was committed to the whole thing.
Yeah, and Harley can pop and lock. Like he's got moves.
Yeah.
So, if you were in Providence, know that we knew that guy, and therefore that makes us a little bit cooler, I guess.
Oh, yeah. And there were the high school kids that broke in.
Oh, yeah. So, you can tell the story better than I.
They didn't break in. They just walked in.
But do you want to tell the story or shall I tell the story?
No, you do it. You're the storyteller.
But you're
okay.
Okay.
All right, fine.
You were there.
So, there were these three younger guys who were kind of acting like really hyper. And I don't know. I just started talking to one of them. I was like, what's going on? Who are you guys? And they were asking me. They're like, what is this? They weren't
dressed, right? Like
they were. No, they were.
It
had
was all like basketball shorts.
Yeah, and they were like, what is this? What is happening? And I'm like, well, it's a dance for fans of the people who are at this conference who are fans of H.P. Lovecraft. And they're, who's H.P. Lovecraft? And I'm like, who are you guys? Why are you here? And they said, well, we're in high school and we just live in the area. And we saw all these people in these crazy costumes walking into this hotel. And so we followed them in.
And they were high school students.
Oh, they were absolutely high school
like
students.
18 years old, maybe 7. Let's go with 18.
Sure.
18 is better for everyone.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. And I just couldn't get over the idea of this never would have happened when I was in high school, because I went to high school in the middle of nowhere, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And these kids were out for the night to presumably just do boring kid shit.
Just like downtown Providence, high
and
school
then
shenanigans.
they see people who are dressed like devils and evil fairies and all kinds of things.
Persephone.
Yes, and they just walk in. And
they tailgated in.
Yes.
So like the security at the door wasn't super tight.
No, because it's all volunteers.
Yeah, it's all volunteers.
Yeah.
And they just kind of tailgated in with another party and then had like the most formative night of their lives.
Yes. They will never forget this night. Like, I'm pretty sure, I mean, to them it was, and I asked them, I said, oh, this must look like Eyes Wide Shut to you guys. And they're like, what?
What's that?
Yeah, what's Eyes Wide Shut? And I'm like, all right, go home and watch Eyes Wide Shut. That's what you should do.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, it was just
the
really
unrated cut, obviously.
obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously.
No.
Because they're over 18.
Yeah. And they had like, one of them had like a bottle of Crown Royale in his big,
That's right.
big teenage pocket.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
And
it
then the
was
next
ridiculous.
morning, we saw the empty bottle of Crown Royale, and that was the last anyone saw of
I really hope
three,
they made it home
these
okay.
3 young adults.
Yeah. But I yelled at them a little, well, because one of them was being a giant asshole.
One
The
of them
other
was an
two-
instigator.
Yeah. The other 2 were cool, especially one of them was like the nerd of the trio, I could tell. And he was actually interested. He was like, wait, who's H.P. Lovecraft? What's the deal? He wanted to hear about it. And I was like, listen, kid, I didn't do it, but I wanted to tell him, you think you're not the cool one now, but in 10 years, you're going to be the cool one.
Excellent. It was a great party.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that these high schoolers showed up. Like I saw a lot of myself in these kids, of course. Like, God, if I had stumbled across this when I was 18, my life would have taken pretty much the same route that it took today.
But still, it would be something that you and your friends would talk about for the rest of your life. Remember that night when we ended up in the cult,
at the top of the hotel,
thing? Yeah, exactly.
in the Art Deco ballroom, where everyone was amazing and old for some reason.
May I have the password, please?
Fidelio.
Yeah.
So other events that happened at Necronomicon. And by the way, this is not sponsored by the H.P. Lovecraft fan
we
club
paid
or whatever.
for all of it to go in ourselves.
But I'm telling
we're
you,
just excited.
if you're listening to this podcast, if you're within the sound of my voice, do try to come to Providence in, I assume, 2024 when the next one will be. Because we need you on our trivia team. Or do we? Because here's the thing. We had the Podsothoth trivia team. We felt like we were doing okay to middling. We came in dead last.
That's because
we came in
because we gambled.
Of course,
you can gamble your things.
Yeah.
So we gambled all of it every time, all of our points every time that we could.
Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's go big or go home.
Yeah.
And
we went home.
And we went home because we came in dead last at -1 point. We were the only team with negative points because we're the only team foolish enough to gamble.
Which I think, like, we were beloved for that.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. I mean, we told good jokes. We got we got good feedback from the audience when we were there. But yeah, dead last. If we had not bet hard on the last question in a kind of double jeopardy sort of rule, we would have come in the middle. But I mean, honestly, I would rather
who pays
be.
attention to the middle people? Nobody.
We saw the Salem Wolves at the street party.
Oh, they were so good.
They were pretty good. They were like a local Boston area band. To me, they sounded like a mix between the Misfits and Echo and the Bunnymen. And I said so on Twitter that I'd really like them. And just today, as we're recording this, got a like and a retweet from the band.
Oh,
so pretty cool.
That's great.
Yeah, very happy with that.
I thought their lead singer was adorable and gave off a punk Michael J. Fox vibe.
Wait a minute, Doc.
Exactly. Yes.
In a great way.
Yes, very much so.
I wanted to find him afterwards and tell him, and I thought maybe he wouldn't think that way. I don't know. He was obviously younger, but that's an incredible compliment.
They were.
Sir, if you're listening.
Chuck, it's Marvin. Your cousin, Marvin Barry. You know that new sound you looking for? Well, listen to this.
Oh.
So, other things that happened. God, we're already 12 minutes in. We're just still talking about Necronomicon. But Necronomicon's like a once every biennial event.
I don't
biannual.
know. I don't know how that works
event.
because it can mean twice a year or
biennial is twice in 1 year. Biannual is every other year. So it's a biannual event. And so other things I wanted to mention real quick is I saw some pretty great lectures. I saw 2 that I really liked. I'll open with my second favorite. It was Dr. Fred Lubnow, and the title was The Old Ones' Contributions Towards Mass Extinctions Event on Earth. It was amazing. If you spend any time at all in like paleobiology, which of course you do because you listen to this podcast, you are probably very familiar with the Devonian extinction event. And
okay. I am a part of this podcast,
Right.
and I don't know what the flip you're talking about. Can we swear? I'm sorry. Can we swear on this podcast?
Yeah, of course.
But,
Yeah,
okay,
I just hit
I
the
don't
explicit tag.
Okay, God, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard. I kind of know what you're talking
There
about.
are like a number of extinction events on Earth, and this dude who is like a for real biology mucky muck, like he's like a doctor, he has a doctorate in it. He went through and like lined everything up with events in Lovecraftian lore.
Oh,
like
fun.
The arrival of Cthulhu on Earth,
Okay.
the arrival of the Old Ones on Earth,
Okay.
and like how these, like how do Shoggoths work, and is this like new for life on Earth?
Yeah.
The Great Race, right? Like both, the original Great Race, which is in the distant past, and then the current air quote Great Race, which is off in the future, sort of, but not in the very far future when there were roaches.
Yeah.
But yeah, like so there's like 4 or 5 of these events through the history of life on Earth.
Yeah.
And he kind of lines it all up with Lovecraft, and it was delightful. And
That's
I
cool.
felt like I was in Miskatonic University when I saw
Aw,
this.
that's cool.
It was like, oh, this is someone who's very serious and very credentialed, and they have good slides, and they have a chart, and then they have this picture of a Shoggoth.
Okay. This makes me think that Harley and I should team up today. Now, and obviously, we would not get accepted at the actual thing, but we should have an alternate
I know where you're
track
going.
of like the legal implications of say Cthulhu shows up. What are we going to do? Like he's
So our friend Harley is an
He's gonna
attorney,
destroy
just like
some shit,
my
and-
my co-host Claire. And let me hit you with this. I love your idea.
Yes.
I love the plan of like what happens when these show up, and like how does insurance work or something. Let me go with this. The legal readings, which you've done on this podcast, of select Lovecraft stories.
That's true. That's probably
the
better,
case
actually.
of Randolph Carter, for example,
Right. Yeah.
and the legal because you went into like, and listeners,
That's
if you're
right,
just
yeah.
listening now, go back to the Randolph Carter episode. It's very good. Like I think like taking you two could fill 50 minutes on just talking about the legal implications of all the confessions that happened during Lovecraft.
That's right.
And the state of law in America in 1920 at the time, right? Because this is pre-Miranda.
Yeah.
And
then
it would be so good. It would be so good.
that'd
I
be
would sign
something.
up for that.
That would be fun.
That would rank my favorite, of course, but not this year because you didn't do it. And this year, my absolute favorite, Professor Bridget Buxton, and her discussion on Nazi archaeology. It was
I regret
bonkers.
not going to that.
It's
I
so
regret
good.
it.
It's like, yeah, we all watch Indiana Jones. We know like Nazis get their face melted when they do this kind of thing. Did you know they actually did some of this stuff? And she's a great speaker. She told jokes. Really leaned into like the Indiana Jones part of it, but like talked about, so like the thing I remember most about it was her comment. It's like, yeah, the Nazis were like really looking for, by the way, not super on board with Nazis, not on board at all with Nazis.
Right.
Nazis should be punched.
Right. Yeah. No.
Nazis.
And again, the sad thing is we feel like the tendency is to think, oh, that should go without saying.
Yeah, no, we got to say
These days, got to say it. Yeah.
Nazis. I hate these guys.
Nazis in 1942, they were trying to figure out, like, how do we get a version of Christianity that doesn't have, like, all the Jewish bits in it?
Right. Yeah.
Which is, of course, laughable on its face for many reasons for anyone who's spent any time at all looking at this. But they made some headway and, look her up. Google her. Again, her name is Professor Bridget Buxton. She's mainly into underwater archaeology, which is itself kind of rad.
That's cool.
And like, I think that's where all the cool stuff is anyway. But she focused in on this expedition into Greece to find, some of this evidence of this like alternate messianic figure that was contemporary-ish with the historical Jesus. But not Jewish, notably not Jewish.
Okay. But then it's not really Christianity.
No, it's not. But it's like, it's Christian-ish.
But you know what?
But the Nazis were like
modern American Christianity is not
absolutely
Christianity. Not. It's more Nazi Christianity, I suppose.
So these Nazis were trying
I'm sorry
to pull
for hashtag not all Christians.
Yeah.
A lot of them though.
Yeah, the fan club's not great. So anyway. I think that's all my notes on Necronomicon. And we had a really great time. And now we should talk about our story.
Okay. All right, let's do it.
So the story is called The Curse of Yig. As mentioned, it was published in 1929. Let's get into it.
Okay.
The story is... Let's see. How do we want to do this? Let's give the elevator pitch
you
first.
Always start with the story. Yeah, start talking about it.
So the elevator pitch is Act 1, basically. It's a little bit longer. It's longer than most of the stories we've read so far. Act 1 is this investigator who I always think of as a woman, by the way. I know.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
like when I was reading it, even when I was like rereading it, I know there's like he, him pronouns in there, but like anytime I think of because I'm thinking of the co-author here, Zealia Bishop. And like, that's kind of front of mind for me. So I always think of in my head canon, the he, him is, fluid.
Yeah.
But anyway, the investigator basically shows up at this hospital where a person of letters is an expert in like snake man mythology, basically. And she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go with."
I mean, who doesn't want to?
By the way,
major in that?
Yeah, she's like, "Hey, I've been doing a lot of work with Quetzalcoatl and tracing that to this more proto snake person demigod figure named Yig, and I'm hitting kind of a brick wall because no one will talk about it." And he's like, "Let me tell you a tale. But first, before I tell you the tale, let me show you this gruesome thing I have in the basement." And she's like, "I'm in. I want to see this gruesome thing in the basement." They go down to the basement, and it's like a dark room, and it has it's got like one window that's like one of the, like eye level windows that you have in basements. And there's hay on the floor. And then there's like this wriggly thing in the middle that is like vaguely humanoid, but also kind of a snake. And they look through the slide in the door, the metal door. And they're like, "Oh, wow, look at that thing. It's horrible." And then they go back to his office.
My favorite part of this is how he acknowledges that he's like, well, maybe sometime in the future,
ethics will let us kill this.
I thought
That's
it was
how I read it.
What is it? I thought he said let it go. Maybe I missed it. Okay.
Maybe the ethics of the near future will let us give it a merciful release. but that's hard to tell.
Oh, that makes more sense.
That's interesting, though, that you think it's like,
I thought it was
future
like-
ethics is like, we can release this into the wild. I'm thinking like future ethics,
such a naive person.
because Nazis, I
Yeah.
guess, will
Yeah.
let us kill this thing and not feel
Yeah.
bad about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, it was just so bizarre to me that, this whole thing, like he was just so matter of fact about the fact that they have this snake
the snake person.
the snake person in there, like, oh yeah, no, we just keep the snake person in here, and
it'll probably outlive us
you
all.
wanna come look? Yeah, I mean, no big deal, no big deal. A little creepy, but whatever.
Yeah. Come
We're not
check out.
we're not going to subject it to any tests or like.
No, we're just going to feed it.
Just sit there.
Yeah. So they, see the sideshow essentially, and then go to the office where this professor who's it's not Stevens. Stevens is one of the other characters. Dr. McNeil. Dr. McNeil then launches into the story about the Curse of Yig, and then so it's doodaloo doodaloo doodaloo. Let's go back to the settling of Oklahoma.
Yeah. So I have a question. If
Uh-huh.
you were in Dr. McNeil's position,
Mhm.
would you show the thing first, or would you tell the story first and then show the thing?
I have thoughts on this.
Okay.
Put a pin in that.
All right.
We're going to come back to that. On the story structure here specifically. And I have a
right.
specific thing to talk about that. But no, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
It's weird to open with the monster.
Yeah.
It's very weird to open with the monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Dr. McNeil launches into the story, and he talks about the Davises, and the Davises are coming to Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain.
And it turns out, man, for prepping for this show, I really, really should write down the names of some of these characters.
Audrey and Walker.
Walker?
Yes,
Walker, Texas Davis?
Walker, Texas Davis. Walker Davis Ranger. Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously, Walker. Okay. Great. So Walker Davis, turns out, is terrified by snakes.
Yeah.
Like part of his backstory.
I feel like okay. If you're terrified of snakes,
Why are you coming to Oklahoma?
why are you it's like during the land rush, right?
Yeah.
Why are I guess you do what you have to do.
Yep.
But also
I mean, they were living in rural poverty, right?
you're going to have to
in
get
Appalachia.
it. Yeah.
And,
Well, no, they're not in Appalachia. They're from Arkansas.
oh, that's right.
It's the
They're from the
Ozarks.
Ozarks.
Mhm, yes.
Different mountains.
Yeah.
Wah,
No, I
wah.
know. I'm a Midwesterner, so I know. I know.
Yeah, so they come out to Oklahoma. P.S. Terrified of snakes, like super terrified of snakes. This comes up
Yeah.
like 5 times
Yeah.
in the next, bit.
Poor Audrey. I would think at some point you'd be like, oh, God damn it, Walker.
Get it together, man. Now, I will say, as part of this whole Curse of Yig tear we've been on, I did watch the first half of Temple of Doom, and I was reminded that Indiana Jones himself is terrified of snakes for,
is.
at that point, unexplained reasons.
That is true.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I doubt that
there can only
Spielberg
be, there can
pulled
only
it
be
from
two
the Curse of
characters in
Yig.
all of human history
Right.
who have been afraid of snakes.
But yeah,
No, Walker is he's no Indiana Jones.
no, he's not. And so anyway,
He's
they're
Arkansas Davis.
Arkansas Davis. Yes, budget rate, Indy Jones. So they go into Oklahoma one night. There's like a storm, and they're like, hey, we have to like shelter these donkeys or whatever. And he goes off to shelter the donkeys, but he hates like rock outcroppings because he thinks there's snakes everywhere. Audrey sees a nest of rattlesnakes, and she's like, oh shit, I better deal with this. So she kills them all. She like uses the butt of her rifle, kills them, smash, smash, smash. Hopefully before Walker comes back. But hey, turns out Walker comes back, says, oh man, why'd you do that?
Because he's already, what he's heard before is what freaks him out. He's been talking to various locals about their fear of Yig. who's a snake daddy.
So that's the thing. Like Davis walks in with this pre-existing fear of snakes and then gets exposed to these Plains Indians in Oklahoma saying like, oh, no, you definitely should be afraid of snakes. Because, hey, check out Yig. He's a bastard,
Yeah.
especially in the fall.
Can you imagine you're already terrified of something,
Yeah.
and then you come into this new place, and they're like, "Oh no,
Oh, yeah.
you are absolutely justified."
And there's like a whole passage about how like the local Indians, like to the point of, boy, maybe we shouldn't treat rattlesnake bites because it might piss off Yig.
Right.
Which is wild. So then over the course of this, it is a ghost story, essentially. So Audrey kills the snakes. There's a whole bunch of stuff about like, oh, and the snakes are coming, Like it's all built up for the snakes. And then they have a party. And
Well,
it's
before that, though,
Before the
I was
Halloween
very
party. Okay.
offended by them calling. Okay, they have the dog named Wolf.
they have a
They
dog
called
named
it
Wolf.
useless. A useless dog named
Useless
Wolf. 'Cause
old
it's all
dog.
old. Like, come on, that was uncalled for.
I mean, you kind of have to pull your weight though when you're on the frontier.
Why'd they bring him if he's useless?
I don't know. They liked him. I mean, we would bring our dog, my stepdog.
Yeah,
to be fair.
your stepdog. Yeah, yeah, but she's not useless. She protects us from burglars
And toddlers
and toddlers walking by
and
on the
bicyclers.
Yes, anybody who's going past our front door.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, I interrupted. They're having
The whole
okay,
podcast
okay.
is interrupted.
So they make it out.
Mm-hmm.
They get their claim. They stake their claim or
Yep.
whatever it is that people did. They meet the neighbors who are with, people on each mile side of them. And
Yep.
they make friends. They're what? I just imagine like the Amish barn raising stuff is
Yeah,
happening.
everyone's helping everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And by everybody, I mean white people, to
Right.
steal this land.
Yes, exactly.
And it's a great time. Everybody has a good time. They meet Joe and Sally Compton.
Mm-hmm.
And those are two names I do remember for reasons. We'll get into them in a second. No, we'll get into them right now. So Sally Compton is a historical figure. Sally Compton is Zealia Bishop's mother-in-law, grandmother-in-law.
Oh, that's so cool. Really?
Yeah. So the rest of the story is so it's interesting because like the story is filtered through a couple different things. It's Grandma Compton who finds the horror at the end of the ghost story. That story is being related by Dr. McNeil to the narrator.
Right.
So we've got like it's a third-hand story, which is a great kind of it's an intricate kind of device for this kind of thing. It's a ghost story, but it's like it is in text. It is third hand.
It's the country version of an urban legend.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a rural legend, which is a term that we should use right now. And so Grandma Compton it's her sister's mother-in-law. And that side of her family is the Comptons, and who live in Oklahoma. And so all of this is historical. And she and Zealia Bishop says that like this story was definitely from like this woman and that's in her family because it's an old frontier ghost story, which we have not even talked about yet. So like if you listen to it, obviously you know what's going to happen, but they have a Halloween party because why not? And the Halloween party goes great. Everybody has a good time. It's at the Davis's house, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then everybody leaves like at a very sensible time because they're all actually Midwesterners.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So they don't linger.
You do not linger. You leave.
And it's like 11 o'clock at night. And then it turns out there's a whole bunch of snakes in the house.
No, but we have to.
Well,
One of the biggest things to me is the constant pounding
there's the tom-toms.
of the local Indian nation's tom-toms. Mm-hmm. And like it drives them crazy, but also so Audrey doesn't like it, but Walker is like, no, they do it to keep Yig away.
Right.
Or to pacify Yig. I don't know why. Something about making Yig feel unwelcome or better. One of those two things. I don't know.
It's a little mixed.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of talk about like how she's really like, oh man, This is just going on and on and on for like nights and nights and nights at a time.
Right. Yeah. Are the tom-toms aren't going though on Halloween, and this is why, right? Like
they are for a while, but then it
stops.
She notices.
That's
that
right.
It's
when she gets up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's all through the party, and I'm sure people are talking about it, and they're talking about they're just being racist.
Partying. Yeah, well, probably.
Probably it's like, can you get over these tom-toms? What's up with all these tom-toms? And anyway, do you think we can actually grow corn here? Who knows?
Yeah.
And so everybody goes home. The Davises have a great time. They go to bed. Right asleep. That was my snoring noise. They go right asleep. And then Audrey wakes up in the night to hear like apparently a brood of snakes that are in the house. And the thought is that because it was a cooler night, it was one of the first cooler nights they've had in Oklahoma. They built a fire, and that must have like drawn the snakes to it.
Sure, because that's what snakes do.
Because that's what snakes do in the middle of the night. Yada, yada, yada. Walker wakes up, is completely freaked out. And
can we talk about...
Yeah?
Okay. I make a lot of fun of... Well, I don't know who did the dialogue in this. Mm-hmm. But the fake Arkansas accent.
I loved it, and it was a delight to try to record. I will tell you when I read it.
Okay, now I might actually listen to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know you never listen to this, right? But this one, give it a shot.
Don't you hear something singing and buzzing and rustling? Do you reckon it's he says, it totally sounds Irish to me. Do you reckon it's the fall crickets?
I mean, it probably is a little bit Irish.
Yeah. Irish plus Yosemite Sam.
Mm-hmm. I'll call tarnation. How do I undo that?
Walker, suppose it's a curse of Yig.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So
we're allowed, by the way. We live in the South. We're allowed. We've lived here for 20 years. We're allowed to make fun of this.
I haven't been here for 20 years.
Oh, close though.
I've
been here
15.
for 20 years.
15.
Okay.
All right.
Wow. Just wow.
Oh, yeah. So how dare I?
So yeah,
I'm from Southern Illinois. That's
close.
Yeah. Trust me. Mm-hmm. There are Southern accents there.
So anyway, the snakes are there. Walker freaks the hell out, faints in fear. Audrey is not sure if she's awake or asleep or having a nightmare or whatever, but she does notice there's an introduction of the element of the alarm clock, and there's a ticking of the alarm clock, and then she eventually notices that like that's the only thing she can hear. There's no more tom-toms.
Why would you have an?
I don't know why you'd have an
if
alarm
you're
clock.
If
you're a farm person, you wake up when you wake up. But anyway, it's important. Yeah. I guess it's important. Okay. So the story can happen.
It's the beating of the heart, the telltale heart.
That's exactly what I thought, by the way, is like the tom-toms and the alarm clock is very Poe sort of. I thought Poe very inspired. And you thought it too. So hooray, we must be right. And then she finally figures out like, no, I am awake. And these snakes are still in my house, and then oh no, it's a humanoid figure, and it's probably Yig, and here comes my axe, and
as one thing. Okay.
And so she goes nuts.
Because Walker's been talking about this nonstop.
And she's freaked out a little bit too now by this point, and so she gives him the axe treatment, and then it turns out it wasn't Yig after all.
Well, but that doesn't explain it. It's only chop, 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 and then Sally comes over the next morning to, I don't know, dissect what happened at this party.
Yeah, they were going to come over and talk about, did you believe what Beth May said?
Yeah.
Or whomever.
FYI, Beth May, most amazing podcast comedian of all time.
Yes.
My name is Beth May, and I play Ron Stampler, emotionally detached stepfather in Rogue.
I was just trying to think of a hyphenated name. But
Beth May, like and subscribe.
Yes. Yeah. Hashtag Beth May. Yeah. So she comes over, but sees the murder here. And it's not a murder, it's a homicide.
But it cracks me up because here's what happens. She comes in, she sees the dog because they've already been talking the story about how somebody got bitten by rattlesnakes.
Right.
And
blew up and popped.
And swelled up and popped. She comes in, sees the dog has been attacked by rattlesnakes and swelled up and popped. Then she sees Walker chopped up in a bunch of, like, totally decimated by an axe. And then it says, and there's no sign of snake bite on him at all.
Right.
And I'm like, wow. All right.
That's some
Sally,
that's some mighty fine,
CSI. We're right there.
forensics work there.
So I'm imagining her like on the ground, dusting for prints. Sally Compton, lady detective.
Oklahoma CSI. And then, so that's the big reveal of the ghost story. It's like it turned out, well, actually, there's two big reveals. It turned out that she murdered Walker. Audrey doesn't murder. It's not murder, right? You tell me. You're the lawyer.
It's a homicide.
Let's go over to Claire's Law Corner.
It's a homicide, for sure.
It's a homicide. Accidentally murders.
It's a kind of a
accidentally kills.
Yes, it depends.
Accidentally exterminates.
Probably like a voluntary manslaughter, maybe is what you would get from this. I don't know.
But also it's Oklahoma and there's like no law. Is it a state at this point? I don't think it's even a state. I think it's still a territory.
I don't know.
But anyway, so Sally did that. But then it turns out 7 months later, Audrey gives birth to a brood of snake people. Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun.
Yeah. So I don't think Audrey consented to this.
So
the
here's
snake rape.
I don't think she got raped by Yig. I think.
What are you talking about?
No.
Who did she have sex with then?
So there's no scene, and
There
I would have
isn't.
liked a
There
scene of
isn't.
that because that would
Yeah.
make it like more horror-y, right?
Right. Yeah.
If it was
there is
being
no
done
scene.
today, modern, right?
Yeah.
Like you would definitely have Yig sneaking in a very Frankenfurter
Right, like Rosemary's
sort
Baby
of way.
kind of a thing. Yeah.
I like how you go with Rosemary's Baby and I go with Frankenfurter.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, because Rosemary's Baby, she has the devil baby at
Right.
the end. But
With
you're right. Why?
Frankenfurter, he comes into Janet's room pretending to be Brad.
That's right. But he also goes into Brad's room pretending to be Janet.
Yes.
Yeah. But there's no babies that
There's
come
no
from
babies.
that. Yeah.
Well, we don't know. I mean, part 3.
Yeah. That's true.
So she has some Yigish brood, but I do think that this is the curse of Yig, where like I think she was like regular pregnant, just like regular people get pregnant, and because she killed the rattlesnakes, this is the curse of Yig.
Oh, because it was 7 months. Was it 7 months later?
They say it was 7 months. I think,
Okay.
I remember that
So
pretty
she was
clearly.
already pregnant.
She was already pregnant by Halloween.
Okay.
And then 7 months later, she has a bunch. 2 of them die, and this is the only one they have left.
Okay. The one that they had. When did she die? I don't remember. But she had.
She died pretty soon. She was like in a sanitarium or something.
First, I was confused because I was like, "How do they know what happened?"
Mm-hmm.
She's the only. Well, I guess Sally Compton could have.
Sally Compton fills in all
Sally
the
Compton
details.
only saw the end of it. She
Right.
doesn't know, but then I guess apparently Audrey had
And
moments
this
of
is
lucidity.
why Dr. McNeil is a doctor, because he's put this together. Right?
Yeah.
And this is because remember, this is all being told to the student who is trying to do the research on Quetzalcoatl to Yig.
Yeah. Okay.
And so he tells this ghost story, which is great. So that's the end. That's the end of the story.
Yeah.
I have things to talk about.
Yes.
So-
Why do you? Why not?
This is going to be an extremely long episode.
Why is the big reveal at the beginning and not at the end?
I will tell you why.
Okay.
Because
Otherwise, it would make no sense.
Lovecraft didn't write this story.
That's right. Yeah.
And because it's a very different structure from every other Lovecraft story. And
It is.
and Claire, let me tell you right now,
Yes, Dot.
this is a controversial opinion, because all
Hot
of-
take.
hot take, Zealia Bishop,
Yeah.
Zealia Bishop definitely wrote this story.
Yeah.
And Lovecraft definitely helped and did revision work.
Okay.
That is my opinion. Because of this weird structure of you reveal the monster
are
first.
there like incels out there who are like, hey, she didn't have
By
anything
incels, you mean every other researcher? Yes.
Oh, okay.
And
why did Lovecraft ever deny that Zealia Bishop had anything to do with this?
that will require more scholarship.
Because I feel like
Lovecraft wrote a bunch of letters, and he wrote to Zealia. Zealia was a client. He
she paid
nominally charged her, but like it's not clear if she ever actually paid, because he's also a softie. And she definitely worked with Lovecraft, and she wrote her own memoir about her work with Lovecraft and all this stuff. Like all of that is true. The scholarship I've read all seems to kind of hand wave over Zealia's contribution to this story and says it's basically Lovecraft wrote it, and like Zealia Bishop definitely provided some of the source material and all that. Like Grandma Compton is a historical, actual, real person in Zealia Bishop's life. Lovecraft didn't make that up, right? I think Zealia Bishop probably deserves more credit for this story than she was given through like the 70s through the probably 90s and 2000s, right? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know like where S.T. Joshi stands on this or any of the other, researchers who actually do a bunch of work on this stuff. But to me, the monster reveal in the beginning is like the biggest L, because I compare this a lot with the Thing at the Doorstep. Thing at the Doorstep ends with the horrible monster at the end of the story.
Yeah, well,
the
that's
thing
like,
on the doorstep, right? What Lovecraft does, and Pickman's model is another perfect example, right? Lovecraft gives away the ending in the title, does the whole story, and then reveals the ending, right, of the monster.
Well, that's the traditional monster story. Possibly traditional because of
this like weird fiction story structure.
Yeah.
But the fact that like the monster shows up in Act 1, and then we have an Act 2 ghost story, and then Act 3 is like, oh hey, and remember that monster we introduced in Act 1? It's actually, dun dun dun. It's Audrey Bishop's kid.
I'd be
like
interested.
That's a more sophisticated, I would dare say, and a more complicated, at least, story structure than what Lovecraft has done.
Well, it would be interesting to. I mean, I only know what I have read, which is telling me what happened.
Right.
I don't know the actual source material, but the story itself sounds like a true collaboration, because Lovecraft doesn't ever talk about Oklahoma. And
he doesn't.
And he doesn't talk about I don't know this
is part of a series, by the way. Like there is a later story, much longer story called The Mound. It's a novella, which is also Zealia Bishop and Lovecraft. And
how was this published at the time?
So it was first published in Weird Tales in 1929.
As what? Written by
I think
the two of them?
I don't know. I think it was Lovecraft's name on it for the Weird Tales story, but later editions credit both of them. Some editions credit Zealia Bishop, some editions credit Lovecraft. Today, it's credited to both.
But if she paid him to flesh the story out, is that
to do revision work? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean that happens all the time. It's like, it's like with the movie, you have a punch-up guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
If this was a movie, Zealia Bishop would get story credit.
Yeah.
And Lovecraft would get writing credit.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I don't think there's anything insane about the idea that they might have equally, she came in with the original idea and he fleshed it out and like gave it.
Well, and I would compare it to
a body.
Under the Pyramids, which is a story, quotes, written by Harry Houdini, actually written by Lovecraft.
Right.
That one definitely was written by Lovecraft.
Right. Well, Harry Houdini was not known for writing things.
But Harry Houdini's name on the cover of a magazine sells that magazine.
Yeah.
And similarly, in 1929, which is like kind of like at Lovecraft's like high point in his career. Even though he's not like, there's a whole bunch going on in 1929, but in 1929, Lovecraft is a name that sells magazines at this point, and Zealia Bishop is not, and she's a woman and it's 1929 and all that, right? So anyway, I think Zealia Bishop should get at least equal credit. And I think that's where people are at today. Anyway, that part is not controversial.
That's what I want to think. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen the source material, like what she sent him and what he sent back, and we don't. And a
lot of these letters, like it's a little bit weird because the only letters that like survived the era from the weird amount of research I did on this, because I really wanted to pin this on Zealia Bishop. Like that's my bias. Like I want Zealia Bishop to like have the get lauded as a weird fiction writer.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of Lovecraft's letters to her, but we do. That's incorrect. It's Christ. I don't remember now.
Well, it's like
we only have one side of the conversation.
Well, it's
in today
because I thought the treasure trove of letters was with her family.
Yes.
So it would have been what he wrote to her.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So all we see is Lovecraft's letters to her and not her replies.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where I decided that I'm not an academic scholar on Lovecraft.
No, it's interesting. And like my initial instinct is, if she's a woman in the 20s, whatever, and with Lovecraft and weird fiction, it's a man's world.
Yeah, it's a boys' club.
If she didn't pull her full weight there, then they would have, then we wouldn't even be talking about her. But the fact that we are, to me, means that she did a lot of work. So there's evidence of it, but I don't know.
She did. So she advocated for herself.
Good for her.
When August Derleth was like putting together material like in the 50s.
Okay.
Right. And this story, Yig and the Mound, were both credited to Lovecraft. And she wrote to him and was like, hey man, what's up? Like, actually, I wrote this, and let me introduce you to Sally Compton, who's a real person. And
good for her.
So, but August Derleth being August Derleth, like was like, oh, sure.
Mm-hmm.
One of the stories. I think today, like the credit is rightfully given to both. They're both credited on it. I can definitely see a bunch of Lovecraft, especially in like the dialogue. That is Lovecraft through and through. It reads like Dunwich Horror.
Yeah. Well, that's how you would, to me, that's if I were going to hire somebody to flesh a story out, that's what you're asking them to do, is to get the dialogue and like how does part A fit with part B and part C. Mm-hmm. To, it sounds to me, I mean, of course, this is 100% speculation, but the thing that makes most sense to me is that she had the idea for the story overall.
Yeah. Which, in like a very Mark Twain sort of fashion, is a story that apparently floated around Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So, like, now I kind of want to know, like, is Yig an invention? Is a snake man an invention? I don't know. Like, I can totally see an Oklahoma ghost story of like a rattlesnake, Indian rattlesnake god, right? I don't know if it's Yig specifically. Anyway, TBD.
No, that whole thing is super interesting to me too, because you're talking about like the story brought up multiple different Indian tribes who, prior to all being smashed together in Oklahoma, were not. They were from different parts of the United States. So,
and I can totally see these dudes like freaking out over rattlesnakes.
Well, no, I just mean like,
because rattlesnakes are monsters.
No, they're not.
They definitely are.
No, they're not. What are you talking? Okay, listen, I am a snake fan.
As am I.
They're not monsters. They're just trying to live their lives.
They give you lots of warning, but like they're very.
Would a monster do that? No, a monster would lay in wait silently.
There's a lot of drama around snakes. And
what are you even talking? I'm shocked to hear this from you. That rattlesnakes are monsters.
Rattlesnakes are monsters.
No,
they're super venomous.
No, we're the monsters.
They make a creepy noise.
We're the monsters.
They have like the angled kind of mean faces that you don't get in pythons.
So what? We're the monsters.
Pythons are cute and adorable.
Yes. That's
Rattlesnakes
fine.
are not.
I would say human-bred pythons are cute and adorable. The ones that, yeah.
Right.
Pretty sure if I go to... Well, I'm thinking of the Anaconda. That's a J-Lo movie, right?
Right. So, speaking of jungle movies, let me back up now 3 steps. Now that we've done the whole thing, I've recorded 54 minutes so
You're
far.
going to have so much time.
I know. I gotta edit this thing all day tomorrow. Jungle movies. So we saw
Jungle movie.
Thank you. We saw the Sandra Bullock movie called Lost City on a lark because I had seen like part of it on an airplane and I'm like, oh, this looks pretty funny.
Absolutely adorable.
It is great. It's a joke a minute. It is amazing. Go watch it. We watched that and then Claire and I were talking and we said, hey, we haven't played Arkham Horror in like a few weeks. What do you want to do? I'm like, we should totally play The Forgotten Age.
That's not... Yeah, it was because we read... Well, you read Lost City of Z, which I had read.
You read Lost City of Z.
I did. I listened to it.
Lost City of the Monkey God.
Oh, no, that's what it was. Lost City of the Monkey God. Okay,
All right.
my bad.
You want to
my
take this
bad.
from the top.
Yeah. No, it was because...
Being that you're wrong, and I don't
Yes.
want to put you being wrong on the
I don't
internet.
give a shit if I'm wrong on the internet. Fine. No, people should not be afraid of being wrong. It's okay. Lost City of the Monkey God. I was saying I read it. And I listened to it on audiobook.
That's how reading works.
It
today.
is. I agree. It's like somebody read it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what you were very excited about.
I'll tell you though, but that was like third in the line in the succession. I will tell you what happened exactly. It is I saw over someone else's shoulder some pictures of Lost City starring Sandra Bullock, and then we came home, and then I came home and I was like, we should watch this movie, and then we did, and then we're like, that movie was great. Let's play Forgotten Age. I am having a great time playing Forgotten. We played Forgotten Age probably 3 times through.
That's true.
We played a lot of Forgotten Age.
God.
By the way, Forgotten Age is part of Arkham Horror, the living card game. Don't get involved with this because you will spend all your money on it, but whatever.
Game, this particular scenario,
It's very killy.
is set up to destroy you.
The first run through, we had it in this run. I believe Claire lost 4 characters over the course of it. All just like die.
I died 4 times.
And the only reason why my character survived is because
I died for you.
Because you died for me, and I was playing a runaway survivor who had get the hell out of here as a card in
That's
hand.
right. And you
so
did.
I could always resign. I love resigning. I love resigning from the scenario. It's the best because no trauma for me. So we played a bunch of that. Then I read, and you had read too, but I saw it was available from the library. I read Lost City of the Monkey God. Friends, Lovecraftians, countrymen, lend me your ear. Read this book. It is Lost City of the Monkey God, a true story by Douglas Preston. It was first published in 2017 by Grand Central Publishing. And you should pick it up right away. It's also available at your local library, I'm sure. It's a wildly popular book. And it goes bonkers on this whole Lost City thing. It covers everything. It covers the racism of like Lost City mythology. It covers the cultural appropriation of said lost cities. It covers for real National Geographic reporter adventure in the Honduran jungle, where literally everything is going to kill you every foot of the way.
The science, the crazy technology that we have now of being able, you can just fly, like with this LiDAR. I feel like I sound like an old lady. It was like this thing called LiDAR.
They got this LiDAR these days.
And they could just fly over this.
Have you heard this?
It takes a lot of flights and a lot of time, but they fly over and they map this out, and they can then find human-made structures beneath the tree canopy.
Right.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy high-tech stuff. LiDAR itself is, and it's a controlled technology because the technology that makes LiDAR work is the same technology that makes guided missiles work, so you got to be careful with it. The last quarter of the book, by the way, spoiler alert, they all get a crazy tropical disease called the leash, also known as leishmaniasis.
That's how it sounded in my book on tape, which is no one says book on tape anymore. Audiobook. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not 65.
Yeah, no. I was surprised when I read this book after playing Forgotten Age, like pretty much nonstop for 3 weeks. We just kept throwing ourselves
trying
into
not to die.
I'm surprised there's no leash disease that you get. This is the poisoned trait.
There's a lot of snake bites. Yeah.
And so it's a great book. Lost City of the Monkey God. Go check it out. If you're a Lovecraft person who likes that kind of like jungle adventure, if you liked The Mound or The Curse of Yig, go check it out. Because Yig plays now, this is the big difference though, is that Yig in the story is an Oklahoma, Plains Indians kind of figure.
It comes from,
but there's this link to Quetzalcoatl, which is an Aztec. Yeah. It's Aztec, right? Or is it Mayan? Is Quetzalcoatl both? I don't know.
I've known it as Aztec, but the story is like it could be a little bit of both. Yeah. But I've known it as Aztec.
So it's the book takes place. Lost City of the Monkey God is a very Central American story, whereas Yig and the Mound are both very Oklahoma based. Anyway, that is it. Holy mackerel. So go check it out.
I had something I was going to say and then I forgot.
Oh, and watch that movie. Watch the Sandra Bullock movie.
Oh my God.
It's super adorable.
There's a reason why she's America's sweetheart. And I know she's older now. And
I would argue it is
America's matronly sweetheart. She's not matronly.
No.
She's adorable.
Yet. She is... this movie is, I think, funnier than Romancing the Stone, like minute for minute.
I would like to go in tonight and watch Romancing the Stone. I have not seen it
since the 80s.
Decades. Yes. Yeah. But what's his face? Channing Tatum, adorable.
Channing Tatum is great.
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt is
was
great.
Amazing.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. I will give spoilers.
Yep. Harry Potter's great
Harry
in
Potter.
it.
You're a wizard, Harry. I'm a what? Harry, you're a wizard.
So if this sounds like it's up your alley, go check it out.
Yeah.
I think that is it. I think that's the end.
Oh, I was just going to make a comment.
I'll go for it.
Which is, it shouldn't even be included, but about how crazy it is that we can read books. So Todd, you watched or you read Lost City of the Monkey God, and then you were like, I don't know why. I just want to go there, despite the fact that there is
it'll murder me immediately. Face-eating snakes,
parasites, and snakes that will fertilances that will throw. But I had that experience, and then the same thing when I read Into Thin Air, which was about the Everest expedition where everything went wrong. What is it about these crazy things that makes us want to do them?
I think it's adventure stories, right? Like what's the one? It's the YA book about the hatchet, I want to say.
Oh, I never read that. My kid read that. Yeah, for sure.
And there's that. There was I read a book. I remember reading a book in high school about Death Valley and being lost in the Death Valley.
When I was a kid, I loved My Side of the Mountain. I loved it.
So there is because it's adversity and adventure, and it's a very, established genre. I definitely would never go to the Honduran jungle. I
might.
Yeah. I mean, okay.
I wouldn't go without you. I wouldn't go without you.
Yeah, but if you're gonna go, I'm gonna go.
Oh.
And it is terrifying. And that's the thing. It's I watch a lot of horror, and I watch a lot of Catholic horror, and I just wish hard that I was Catholic all the time so I could be a better demonologist. But when it comes down to it in the real world, I'm not going to go into the jungle. I'm not going to become Catholic.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't want something that's going to eat my face. I don't want a face-eating parasite.
Oh, let me tell you more about the leash. So I will spoil this because you can go look it up on the Wikipedia. It's not crucial to the story.
Yeah, no, it's not a fake. It's an actual thing that happens. So
Here's the thing. So you get leash, right? And it comes from a bug bite, and the bite site itself ends up being like a fairly large, like dime-sized wound that kind of weeps, but it doesn't hurt. There's no pain or anything like that. It just kind of weeps a little bit, pus, and it's gross, right? Then time passes, and these parasites find their way through your blood to your face. They love your face, and they love to eat your face. And what ends up happening if it's untreated, essentially your nose and lips rot off.
it's like the moist areas.
Yeah. It's all the parts that are like, because this parasite is not thrilled with your 98.6 body temperature. It wants to be like in cooler parts, and that means extremities. So like I assume like fingers and toes also go and all that. But the most obvious symptom of untreated leishmaniasis is your face and your lips literally rot off. And the reason why I bring this whole thing up, and Claire's making like ew faces at me right now. The reason why I bring it up is because there is a Mayan criminal punishment tradition of chopping off people's noses and lips. And there's some thought. It's like, it's because of leash, because they're already familiar with this, and they
that's
don't know
thing
germ
that is
theory
bad,
or
and people don't like it.
Yeah.
So
so we're gonna
that's
so
a
like
threat.
as a punishment for thievery or whatever, we're gonna cut off your face and lips, or your nose and lips, right? Or maybe just your nose, or maybe just your lips.
Face.
Cut off your whole face, whatever. But yeah, that's like that's like a Mayan thing, and so the Mayans clearly had contact with this disease. And also, I remember from the book, this disease like has a genealogy that's like 100 million years old.
Yeah.
You can do the whatever it's called, like the molecular aging that you do on viruses, and there's evidence that this is a virus that is quite stable. It has been on Earth for 100 million years. It probably came from a shoggoth. Okay, Dr. Fred Lubnow, it probably came from a shoggoth because it's 100 million years old. And there were dinosaurs that suffered from this.
I'm just trying to imagine a poor T-Rex.
A poor T-Rex with no nose or lips.
Yeah.
I got the leash. Don't go to that jungle.
I should have gone there.
Yeah. Anyway, holy mackerel, longest episode ever. It'll probably be the longest episode even when I'm done editing it. But thank you so much, everyone, for listening, playing along. I will say that we got some contacts of just like, hey, love the show kind of stuff from two Australians that I haven't heard from before.
Fantastic.
Dan and Marcellinus, or Marcellinus. No pronunciation guidance given or required.
I don't know if I saw it.
And then also a listener from apparently my new favorite state, Kansas.
Yeah.
It is from Jana.
Can we flee there?
Good job. Good job on protecting abortion rights in Kansas.
Yeah. I don't know for
Maybe
sure
we'll
if
move.
you voted for that, but I hope you did.
Hope you did.
You should be aware this is a we're not a political podcast, but the personal is political. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Australians and Kansans alike.
Yeah.
Rave about Pod South-Off of Lovecraft Book Club. And Eric from Necronomicon, hey, how's it going? He said he was consuming our podcast with both ears since we talked to them.
What if you'd said like all 5 ears?
All 27 of my
orifices.
orifices. Probably. I mean, he is a cultist after all.
Mm-hmm.
And that is all. Hey, if you like the show, reach out to us on @PodSothoth. You know how to spell it. It's on your phone right now. On Twitter, @PodSothoth. Or write to us on email like an old. We are hideous@podsothoth.club. That is .club, not .com. It's a real top-level domain. But yeah, hideous@podsothoth.club, or much easier is Twitter, @podsothoth. And let us know what you think. And if you have any requests for future eps, what we should read next, Should I even do the reading or should we just do this? I don't know. Like last time I did a poll. I'll put another poll on Twitter now that we have a few more listeners.
People want the reading. Of course they do.
It was pretty evenly split. Like last time I did the poll, it was like 50-50. It was like some people really like the readings because they fall asleep to it and they like that it's serious. And people like this a lot. Though. I think they like you specifically, Claire.
I'm sure they do, but whatever. It's a group effort. But Todd does all the work on this. I just show up. I read the thing and then show up to make jokes.
Yeah, now you're a crucial part of this enterprise.
I'm just a guest.
You are. Special guest, though. Special recurring guest. All right. That's it. Have a great night. Don't go into the jungle. Beware the Curse of Yig.